The new set is out, sort of. Pre-releases have happened, and I got about 2 boxes. It's not enough yet to fully build all the things I want to explore, but I do think it is time to start exploring the Trial by Frost expansion. I took a look at the rares I opened, and the one I got 3 copies of is Lyra Winter Nova. Fate is calling to me, so we're going in. Lyra Tower. I call it the tower because I'm not calling it whatever it's actually called. It's too hard. This is inherently going to be built and played a little bit different than Hyper Hydra. A lot of the cards played in Hyper Hydra focus on discounting, and really you don't have room to play Mind, Apotheosis, Hydra, Nova, Tower, all in the same build. Tower itself demands a certain threshold of spells, and as Auraq, you ultimately need cheaper characters to build counters. So we throw out all of these things, and we have a higher spell count. We have less focus on discounting for early plays, and more of a focus on consistent early game with Winter Nova and Small Step to close games out. Plan for this video is a little bit to throw stuff at a wall. This isn't necessarily an optimized list, but we're trying out new cards and we're going to see what works. Let's go ahead and jump in, play some games, and I can talk through some of the cards as we play. Okay, we're up against Basira first. I'm a little worried of Basira's ability to have a lot of just body-based threats. I feel I do want to have some sort of interaction. That's either going to be Tanuki or Off You Go. Because we're going first, and turn 2 we probably want to play Mighty Djinn. You know, Tanuki's not being cast for a little bit, and I really don't know what day 3 is going to look like. So I prefer Off You Go over the Tanuki. We have a good sequence of things to do in our early turns. I think, you know, we want to keep Mighty Djinn interaction, so Off You Go. And with that, we need to turn 1 play. I don't want to put anything to sleep. Esmeralda gives us some more ammo, so we'll do Esmeralda, Djinn, and Off You Go. I think if we didn't have this Off You Go, there's an argument for seeing if we want to try to keep this Winter Nova for later. I don't think Basira is the place that you want to do that, but while we're early in the format, it'd be something that I'd be looking to try. But it doesn't seem right at all here, so I'm putting it back. We get a Rare Break the Ice in our reserve here. This is a spell that I'm wanting to test this more against Off You Go. It is kind of making me feel that it's hard to get off without having Ouroboros Trickster or Uniques that can also provide those 3 base stats. Here, again, we're going second. I still want to keep this Off You Go for the previous reasons. I plan on playing Mighty Djinn this turn. Next turn, I'll be going first, so it seems like there's a good chance that Tanuki will be good. I would love to use this Niala by like returning an Off You Go or something else, but I know that this Tanuki is more likely to be able to hit something, either something new he plays or maybe Helping Hands this Bravos Blade Dancer, and it'd be great to just get that out of the way. So we'll put back the Swapper, continue holding on to this Off You Go since it's going to be good versus this Bravos Blade Dancer type stuff. He actually plays Aurora, which lets him discard the Blade Dancer to become pretty huge. And interestingly, this also is not a good Off You Go target, but it is something that maybe we can break the ice on later. But we're pretty fine with this. Like, they're using a lot of resources really just to take 1 lane. We get to continue doing our Djinn thing that we planned on doing either way. Trade 1 for 1, we're down a lane, but we're going up on mana, and we'll continue from here. Now that we know that there's going to be some 4 and bigger drops here, including the fact that this discounts something, so who knows what he's trying to do. Plus, I have the Break the Ice already. I can go ahead and send back this Off You Go. The Break the Ice is probably going to serve as a better version of that in a lot of situations. But we can open up with a Tanuki to get rid of the 1 card that we do know that he has. And then he follows it up with a Floral Tent, which actually can protect his guys in this lane against my removal. So we'll see how long you want to keep this Break the Ice around. I like having it as a threat, especially if he is planning on doing any big like Atlas type thing. But we can start by drawing a card here and seeing how he follows up and figure out what we want to do ourselves from there. And we can actually block this lane with an Esmeralda, which feels pretty good. He may have a 1-drop that lets him take something, but he does not. So we're now even on lanes, and we have a choice to make here. I still want to try this Break the Ice. I think in the future maybe I'd get rid of it, but I'll keep it around for now and get rid of the Tanuki. Trying to just see deeper into my deck. Tanuki's not a good body for casting from the backside, so I'd rather try to dig to something more effective. Maybe get another swap or get the magical training back. Here, Avalanche, another card I want to try. We'll probably be putting back the Off You Go this turn if we overflow, because we don't need all this removal, especially against a Floral Tent. These other things seem pretty effective, so I'll put back the Ouroboros Trickster. And we'll get to our 5 counters on Auraq this turn. He actually plays an Auklet, which is sick. He's going to be able to exhaust my entire reserve. That's the kind of thing I want to be doing. But we can fight over the left lane with Esmeralda, see what else we get. And we actually have enough with Tanuki here to take this right lane on Mountain because of the Sandman. And the Sandman will gain fleeting, but it's still, we have so many resources available to us. Like, I don't hate that. Like we're going to have to discard from reserve this round anyway, right? So first time we see this downside coming into play, and it's not affecting us. So far, it just feels like a 3/3 for 2, which is great. But we go ahead and discard Esmeralda here. I think in hindsight, I should probably get rid of the magical training, but magical training does give us more value, and we are going to be seeing something off the top here, especially just drawing like a Break the Ice. That makes me want to have gotten rid of this Break the Ice in the discard here. But we'll discard the Sandman with the idea of going in on our plan of keeping the magical training and trying to see something new, try to see what kind of other options we can have available to us. We hit the Heimdall, which is not going to block him in either lane, so we might as well just play it in the blue-green lane over here. Another thing, hindsight, I think it's better to put it in the single color lane so that if we advance it, next turn we're now fighting over 2 dual color lanes, giving us more options for being able to push things forward. The way this is going, if we do advance this, we're not going to have as flexible things to fight over the next round. Also, by putting this here, I made it so that if he tries to fight over it, it's in the Floral Tent lane, which also is not great because I can't remove things from this Floral Tent lane as effectively. So hindsight, definitely should have put the Heimdall left, but we can take our actual turn opener with the magical training. Now, we did have the option of breaking the ice there using 4 of our mana and just removing these counters, but I don't know what else is in his hand, and that could have left us in a really awkward spot, so I don't want to do that. This Bravos Rescuer also seems super effective, giving a fleeting character a bunch of boost. But he'll be able to use that to lock down our Snowman, but we can at least use our Avalanche to get rid of this and trade lanes. So interestingly, we actually ended up in a place where we let them advance right. I mean, let is stronger words than maybe are true. But we do advance left. They are going to lose their Floral Tent as a result, but they are going to keep this Auklet by using the support ability on the Bravos Rescuer, which is some cool utility seen from our opponent for sure. But we're going into a late round feeling way ahead. Here we can finally get rid of the Break the Ice and just keep our big thing and our unique. And we don't have any spells in hand, so I'm going to get rid of this tower. But really, if we see a Winter Nova or if we see a Small Step Giant Leap, we're going to win. We also may just win this turn from raw power. I want to open up by seeing additional options. But I should probably keep in mind that this Auklet is pretty brutal. Like, when he plays this, he's going to exhaust my entire reserve. So I could have played the Heimdall here, in anticipation of that exhausting. But really, all that's doing is spending an additional mana, and he's going to put the Auklet in the same lane as this either way, and it's going to be bigger. So I'll be down more mana. I won't have, all I'll really have available to me is the Break the Ice and the Studious Disciple. But if I had done that in the left lane, then I could Break the Ice to get rid of the Auklet, and then he is now having to answer the Heimdall and Studious Disciple, which is probably a more solid and consistent move. But, it's new into the format. I'm not used to playing against these cards yet, and it's good to recognize now that Auklet basically says exhaust your opponent's reserve, and that's powerful. I'm not going to be able to play whatever comes out of here. Now, we thought we may be able to Break the Ice to handle whatever he has, but actually he has a Eat Me energy bar, so this is going to be gigantic, meaning it's covering both lanes, and he's going to tie it up here, which is a little scary, but at least we're going into this final round. We have the counter on Auraq. We have a lot of things available to us, and hopefully there's no more Auklets coming from him. And we also draw the small step giant leap. So that should be enough to put the nail in the coffin. We do, with our 5 counters, get to hit something, but it doesn't matter a lot. Martingale, one of the worst things we can hit, but it doesn't matter because small step will take the game. I think that most things that we see here put us in a strong position because we have so much power from, for example, this Heimdall. We do have this removal. His Floral Tent is gone, and he only has 8 mana available to him. So while we hit the bingo with small step giant leap, I actually felt like I was in a good position here no matter what. Okay, up against a Treyst. I definitely want to get rid of this small step giant leap, and there's no chance I'm keeping 2 Novas in my opening hand, but I may keep this third or the second Nova, especially like later in the game. Being able to get rid of Havens can be pretty key. Like that's one of the things that makes Treyst so powerful is that Haven just makes it such a beating. That leaves these 4 cards as options. I like Sandman a little bit because it allows me to slow down them getting cards in their reserve to start getting counters on Treyst. But because we're going first, I can't drop this turn 1 on whatever character they play. And even if I was going second, you run into the risk of them opening up with Haven and you just having an awkward Sandman hand. So with that, like I definitely want to turn 1 play. So that leaves Martingale. I really want to have Mighty Djinn turn 2 so that I'm building towards my bigger plays and options. And I'd rather keep the Nova for later than keeping Sandman around as a potential day 3 option, especially since we're trying to see how Nova plays, and this is an opportunity for us to do that. They open up with a Keelan Elemental and then use the support ability for Foundry Mechanic to play a Haven. An interesting sequence. I feel like if I had this hand, I'd probably do Haven followed by Foundry Mechanic, but on their side, they got an initial counter on Treyst as a result of doing this, and they also didn't know if I was going to have a follow-up. All I had was Martingale, and I could have made it so that they didn't advance, and they're kind of advance-minded. Here, I'm seeing a bunch of things that are going to have 4 mountain toughness, plus he has Haven. I don't think I'm ever going to get multiple things with Avalanche, and I don't like Avalanche when it's just basically a single target removal spell with Fleeting. It's kind of like Keelan Burst in that sense, and I'm not super excited about that kind of card. So I'm going to put that back. I can open up with Magical Training here from my options since he didn't Tinkerbell my Martingale. I have time to see. But I'm doing this over playing the Mighty Djinn to really just get further into my deck. But in hindsight, our plan was to Mighty Djinn turn 2. We had a decent option to do it here on the left, and that's probably what we should have done. But we were also fairly wary of this Tinkerbell, and it just threw off our thinking here. When he didn't actually open up with Tinkerbell in the Martingale, we didn't know what was going on. It was surprising to us, and it threw us off our game. But in the future, I'd rather have gotten that Mighty Djinn out. But we'll get rid of the Break the Ice here. It is probably at its best, though, since we had this Ouroboros Trickster. So, this is one of the places where we'd want to keep it, and we still felt like putting it back. Because here, like, the Nyala can actually swap for a Magical Training, which feels great. Being able to cast the 1 mana side of this is one of the reasons that we kind of run this pair. So we go and open up with that swap, and we'll leave the Trickster vulnerable to Tinkerbell, which he does hit. And overall, things are going a little slow for us, but they're not going too fast for the Treyst, which is really what we're afraid of. Treyst can be a little blistering fast sometimes, and so we're happy to take these 1-for-1 turns early on, especially as we build to this Winter Nova turn. Now, this next turn is a turn that we want to critically play the Mighty Djinn out so that we're ready to start Winter Nova. And it's also great because we have a lot of 2-drops in the deck, of which we drew some, and we can do a Mighty Djinn 2-drop turn, get to 5 counters on the Auraq, have a free spell next turn in addition to the Winter Nova, which we can use to actually get rid of both of their Havens. We'll also be going first, so we can potentially freeze them out. So, whatever they do this turn, will at least get rid of a lot of the established effects that they've invested into here in the Havens. We go here with the Mighty Djinn. We could have gone left to compete over that, but really all that does is make it so he like Frankenstein's on left and takes both lanes. At least when we go right here, it forces him to either go here and have a 1-drop, which would need to be like Salvager, or to only take 1 lane. And we'll happily lose this lane in exchange for the longer term game plan here. We get rid of the magical training here. The 3 cost is not something we're going to have mana for a while. Really, we could have gotten rid of either the magical training or the trickster. If we do that, like if we get rid of the trickster, we can still Niala swap for the magical training back to hand. But I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that. And I like having this 1 mana Auraq trigger now that we're kind of getting this machine going. Here, I love Tanuki against Treyst, so there's going to be things in reserve, so I'm going to keep that, and I want to be able to keep my own fuel going, and this is the Winter Nova turn. So we go and flip our Auraq and hit Tower, which is sick, because that's going to let us cast our Winter Nova for free here, which will definitely get rid of the 2 Havens. Then we have the option of freezing him out, or going ahead and putting bodies on the table. I kind of want to bait him into booming this. We don't have any other spells in hand. Like we can draw another Winter Nova, but 1 is already in our mana, and the value of this is going to be a lot less. So if I can get him to use this by sacrificing a character and spending the mana and using this boom, I kind of like that. So I'll make the bodies with the moth, and I will get rid of the Havens. And then from there, I'll put the bodies on the right so that the grass lane where we're fighting on the left side, where I can have mountain grass and compete with either my Tanuki or my Gifted Conjurer. The other option is for me to do the Esmeralda lane on the right, but I go with this. Now, I thought I would actually have some more time to see if he's going to boom something and decide if I want to Tanuki it or Tanuki what he puts in there with the Lovelace, but he actually uses Treyst ability to immediately make a Capella for no actions and let him boom the tower on the same turn. But we only wanted that kind of 1 free tower spell, and we got the value we needed out of it. So from there, we can now Tanuki and actually hit his Lovelace, leaving him with a lack of cards in reserve. But he does see the 3rd Haven and hits a Salvager. Luckily, a common one, so he's not going to be able to immediately play that. But we'll go and bolster our power here with the Esmeralda. We could just stop and have, instead of playing this Esmeralda, just played an Ouroboros Trickster. The problem with that is it leaves me at 2 counters, and I want to kind of start building up counters to keep this machine going. We're going to be 2 lanes away from winning, and I want to find another Nova or small step at this point to kind of force through the win. We couldn't have opened with Niala, because if we did that, we'd be forced to swap this Ouroboros Trickster for the Esmeralda in our hand. The swap is not an optional ability, and so leaving Esmeralda in hand and playing Niala would have been pretty awkward. But this lets us play Esmeralda and then play Niala just to get counters on this. And it's kind of just using the rest of our resources this turn to at least get mana there. Alternatively, we just do those swaps, but and leave the Esmeralda in, play the Trickster and leave the Esmeralda in hand. But I like this more. We actually draw both the Nova and the small step, which we can use Winter Nova this turn to get 12 power on one side and force a lane win. And then the next turn, as long as we win this round with 12 power, which is probably going to do it versus single Haven, we win with small step. Here we can make all the Maws on the right side. That's 12 power. There's no way they can match that with 5 mana, and from here, yeah, it just feels like a solid, easy win. Cool. Okay, new game with a little bit of a continuity shift, a continuity break. Okay, so playing against Atsadi, this is not Tower Akesha. We don't necessarily want to keep these things no matter what, and we actually have some really strong opening plays. I definitely want to keep either Martingale or Studious Disciple plus a Snowman, and going to turn 2, like the thing that I'd love to do is just like Snowman as an option. So I think I want to keep Martingale, Snowman. If this was like an Akesha build, I would strongly considering the Winter Nova, since like we could kind of force going second and Nova something big out of Atsadi. But it may just be the case that there's not a great timing for Winter Nova. I still think it can be good in the matchup, but it's not something that I want to save for my opening hand. So I'll keep a Snowman, and Martingale, or Studious Disciple even. There's not a huge differences in the two, but I think the Martingale probably would have been a little bit better because it gives me another type besides the mountain water, and it its discountability can be better. But Studious Disciple is better into like magical training, since I can actually like play the disciple and get the free training. I will double advance on the first round while they do take 1 advance. Here, I'm wanting to keep the cheaper things. I really like Sandman later in the game when I'm trying to push for a win. I don't love it as much early on, especially in this kind of deck. So I'll put the Sandman back. And I'll definitely play this Snowman, assuming it doesn't get sabotaged, and then it'd either be Trickster or Snowman to follow that up. I can go into this right lane and still advance. I'm never going to be able to block him on that. And then if he goes here, we can get a forced block with the Snowman, which Trickster would not do. So our initial plan of Snowman is the clear thing to do. And we already have 4 counters on Auraq, which is going to set us up for maybe something big early on. Either way, we've got a good tempo going because we've now gotten extra lane twice in a row. So we have 4 points out of the required 7. Now this time, as we're getting closer to 8 mana, and I do have this Disciple to potentially discount, though I'm probably playing it this turn, I am feeling better about keeping Winter Nova, and I want to try to, hedge towards my newer, cooler spells right now, just to see how they play. So I'll keep the Nova. I really think Heimdall's super powerful, and I can do like a Disciple Nova or a Disciple Heimdall play here. So with that, I'm putting back the Trickster. I want to keep developing my mana. We open up with this Disciple, as said, so that we can have the Heimdall follow-up. We now have the 5 counters on here, and Heimdall, I really want in the right lane here. Swapping this tiny Jin over is unfortunately going to block us from advancing here. It does make it so his tiny Jin isn't advancing, but because I'm so far along, I'm the aggressor in this situation, and I don't want to play defensively. I actually want to be pushing. So I'll play Heimdall cheekily to the left, but I'll just immediately switch it over to the right. He plays a Mighty Jimby, Mighty Simbi, which luckily will not be enough to actually block this on the left. And once again, we get a double advance, and this kind of just shows how like this deck can also just be a beatdown deck with the right draws, and especially just Auraq being able to push that advantage with these counters coming up next turn. Now here we have this free spell coming up. I don't think that we're going to get to play either Nova or Cocoon, but in case we do somehow lose this round, I want to be ramping with Mighty Jin at least, and playing Nova next turn, since that 12 power can at least put us in a really strong position for whatever happens. So we got rid of the Cloth Cocoon, especially since, again, like I also don't want to trade 3 mana for like 3 mana of one of his things, because he has a lot more mana than I do, and trading 50% of my mana for 35% of his doesn't feel like a great deal. But we do get this just 2/2 isn't going to do anything, but we'll put power on the board. Opponent opens up with a tiny Djinn, which will block us here. Um, but we can take back this lane with the snowman, see what he does. He goes right. And we can push even harder with the mighty Djinn. And that'll be enough. So we take the W. Okay. I played a few more games off camera, and in general, it feels good. Winter Nova is surprisingly feels quite strong. Break the Ice feels like I want more 0/0/0 cards, and to do that, I may need uniques that really fill up the slots that I want, or I'm more intentionally building towards those cards. Avalanche was okay. But between these removal spells, I kind of like the fact that at least Break the Ice can can take a generic removal slot without requiring a rare. Tower doesn't feel like it's quite there yet where I need 2 copies of it. I don't mind running 1 copy here, but I'd probably try to see if I could cut this down to 1 and just have it as a potential top end hit. I never want 2 of these, and it's not as critical to my game plan as it is in like Akesha Tower Control. From the characters, Snowman felt really great. Snowball Commando, which isn't here, but we had on our first games list, felt like it was more tuned for a different list than this one. Similarly, Will o' the Wisp, the discount here is going to be more effective, in my opinion, in the kind of Hyper Hydra build, and I'd love to play it there. But the power value trade off here isn't as worth it when I am trying to win lanes more early on rather than just going for a snowbally play like Hydra. Nyala felt okay. Definitely feels like she can be great in Lyra, maybe in some Fendex and things like that. But this list is not optimized for Nyala. And so while there are some decent opportunities to use her, just as a incidental value character, it's not amazing, but felt fine. And Heimdall, I loved. I definitely want to get a second copy in here. I don't know if you want 3 copies because having 6 cards at the 4-drop slot may be a little bit too much for your characters. But it felt super solid, and I love playing it. Overall, exciting with the new set, and Winter Nova kind of opens up some new opportunities for Auraq, which I really like. Thanks for watching. Next time, I think I'm going to be playing some Atsadi. And yeah, please consider subscribing if you're not already, and comment or like. All of that helps me in the algorithm, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Until next time, I'm Elio.